Welcome, everyone. We are back, episode 18 of What We're Watching. Joey back here with you. Also joining me, as always, my co-host for this series, TJ. How are you, my friend?
Pretty good this day, man. It's a day of the week. We are living it, and I don't want to say what day it is because I
It
feel
is
like
it's a day of the week. It
it's
is
a day of
one
the
of
week,
the 7 days.
one of those seven. Unless it is that one that like I wish like we could like create a funky new day, man. Let's get because then we can have a 4 day weekend. They're still gonna make us work our 40 hours, right? But we can have a 4 day weekend, man.
You know what? I feel like they would meet us halfway. They're like, listen, I hear you. We're going to do that. We're going to stick it between Wednesday and Thursday. And they're going to make us work that, and somehow they're like, no. I'm like, let's put it between Saturday and Sunday. Well, if we did that, you'd have to come in on that day. So you clock out Friday, you're off Saturday, you got to come back for middle day or whatever we call it, and then you're off Sunday. You're like, I don't even know what day it is anymore.
That's typically how it works, and then you end up not knowing what day it is. It would screw everybody up, and I know we're completely off topic, but it would screw everybody up. I mean, it's already hard enough in January remembering to write the new year whenever you write the date. So could you imagine people getting a new day? They wouldn't know how to act.
And now we're starting to get a lot more of those singular holidays that float, so Christmas floats, but I feel like most places of business kind of work something out about Christmas having some time off. Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday. You get Memorial Day, Labor Day, the date changes, but they're always on a Monday.
Yeah.
But Veterans Day floats. Juneteenth
Oh,
floats. 4th of July floats.
right.
And so now you take Juneteenth and you take 4th of July, that's like 2 weeks apart. You're messing people up back to back. You come back from Memorial Day, you're like, that's all right. I got a 4 day week. I know I got a 4 day week. And then you kind of get into your groove again. And then boom, Juneteenth comes and it's on a Wednesday. You're like, all right, now I could take them days off, but we got the rest of the summer coming. The wife is gonna want you to take the kids somewhere. You're like, all right, let me just go in. I'm gonna work my 2 days. I get my day off. I'm gonna work my 2 days. And you're like, okay, all right, this week is good. All right, yeah, we got to good. Wait. You mean week after next is the? Oh, does she want to take that week off, or does she want to take the following week off? So if she takes the following week off, let's see, the 4th is on a Thursday this year. If it, do I take the 5th off and then cruise into that? Do I have those days? So now you calling HR and you're like, Cheryl, could you look up what my days are? Hold on, let me get a pen. Yes, I know I should have had a pen rating. Cheryl, don't apologize for me.
We're not doing this today, Cheryl.
So now it's like April, and you done put in for all these days, but the boss has not approved them yet. He said, "No, I got you," but he is not signed, and he's got you yet. That's a lot. That is a
Seen him.
lot.
He's seen him.
He's
He
seen
knows
them.
him, but he ain't approved him yet.
That's why somebody told me this is what you do. Whenever you start a new job, like tell them, say, look, I'm telling you now, 6 months from now, I got to be off for these 3 weeks because of this. I'm putting it on your schedule now, and then remind them like every 3 weeks. Oh, this project, I got you, but remember, I can't be there for these 3 weeks of this project. Like I'm up the front there, and I can do everything beforehand, and I'll pick it up when I come back, but not that first day. It's gonna be a half day for me. I just check an email. All my lights are not gonna be on. You understand that, right?
And then I have to remind you, so like you tuned in to what we are watching and got some prime and
Holiday planning with TJ and Joey. It's gonna be a new offshoot when it's another channel, but don't worry about that right now.
call HR. Call Cheryl in HR. That's it.
All right, but we left all of these things were happening. We did talk about that. So let's talk about Join the Club. It's the second episode of part 1 of season 6. Is the 67th overall episode of the series, written by David Chase and directed by David Nutter. Originally aired on March the 19th of 2006. 2 days after being shot by Junior, Tony remains in an induced coma. Doctor explained that the gunshot has caused several injuries, including severe sepsis, and encouraged Carmela and others to talk to him and play him music in the hopes of recovery. However, they also warned that he could die or be left with brain damage. Carmela, Christopher, Meadow, and Barbara keep a vigil over Tony, while Janice starts sobbing whenever she sees her brother. A confused Junior is held in custody and denies that he shot his nephew, insisting that Tony must have shot himself because he is a depression case.
And you know, he's not a varsity athlete.
He's not a varsity. He's probably telling everybody that, it's probably because he never made varsity that he shot himself. Chris, Paulie, and Vito vie for small opportunities to assist Tony's family during the crisis, such as sending presents to his room and bickering over giving a ride home to AJ. They're lining themselves up because they're like, ooh, either way, I got to take advantage of this, because if Tony pulls through, Tony, I was here for you. Your family can tell you. If Tony doesn't pull through, somebody's got to fill that void.
They need to be seen doing things. But here's the thing, when you see how quickly the conversations start being had. Your man sitting there in the hospital bed with a huge hole in his stomach. Like, It's uncomfortable to look at that hole. I didn't know that I was one of those people that didn't like holes. I didn't even know that was a thing, that you couldn't like holes. But I know now I don't like looking at Tony's holes. I'm just putting that out there. Nothing against it, James. I'm sorry.
So you're saying at this point in your life, you're not considering a career in medicine?
No, I'm open to trying a lot of things, but that right there, no, I can't do it.
But I'm TJ. I'm your no holes doctor.
No.
How does that work?
I got everything that doesn't have to do with holes. That's it. But no, so how quickly, Tony goes down, and then the conversations are being had, if he doesn't make it, I've lost all this weight. I'm in a really good position. Like, come on.
So during Eugene's funeral, an impromptu meeting of the Mayo family is held, and Silvio assumes Tony's responsibilities as acting boss. Vito questions why Bobby, traditionally Junior's de facto caretaker, was not in Junior's house when Tony was shot, and suggests killing Junior altogether. Ultimately, they decide on cutting Junior off from the family, making Tony the official boss. They also trade differing theories for why Eugene committed suicide. Meanwhile, AJ becomes increasingly withdrawn and avoids Tony's hospital room, claiming to have a stomach flu. Rosalie April, citing her experience with her own son, advises Carmela to be more strict with her son. AJ admits to Meadow that he's embarrassed and angry by the actions of his family. He finally gathers enough courage to talk to his comatose father once the two are alone. Before leaving, though, AJ emotionally vows to kill Junior. Afterwards, he admits to Carmela that he flunked junior college. She looks at him in stunned disbelief, but holds her anger and sends him away.
Tony Soprano is not gonna die. Like that right there, of all the lines that AJ had, that one stood out because he called his father by his first name, and he said Tony Soprano's not gonna die. And that's before, getting the opportunity to actually go and talk to him. And then you see him really sitting there, and it seems like he's carrying on the conversation. Now, mind you, he's not talking about anything. We see Carmela look on, and she's looking so proud that AJ having this conversation with Tony, who's sleeping, and he's not talking about anything except for stuff. I mean, it's important to him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's surface stuff. It's material things. He's not talking about why he flunked out of school, anything of importance, but that's just the relationship that Tony created with his son.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't necessarily talk to AJ about a whole bunch of real substance stuff. Tony wasn't that wasn't Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So he took AJ on the boat. He took AJ to games. Like that's the relationship that he had materialized. So that's why that's the response we're getting from AJ. But again, pure AJ to drop this on Carmella when she's dealing with this for Tony. Like that's the worst, man. That is the absolute worst.
And we get, I feel, AJ, on one hand, all the times you think that he's finally growing up and maturing. This is no longer the kid that we've joked that
Yeah,
he
huh?
yeah, he kept getting in trouble. That's the whole reason that he had to go visit his grandmother, and then the stuff at the pool and the trophies and then all of that. And now he goes, and on one hand, he's like, I've got to become the man. Tony Soprano will not die. He vows to kill Junior. And then he has to go and tell his mother I actually flunked out of junior college and didn't tell you this for now. So it's always like one step forward and two steps back for AJ. Chris, now driving Johnny's Maserati coupe, again runs into FBI agents Harris and Goddard at Satriali's. The two ask him to provide them with any information regarding terrorist activities. At the Bada Bing, Chris is seen talking with two Middle Eastern men, but he chooses not to go into discussing his crime family's matter with them. All while this is going on, we get scenes from Tony's coma. While he's in a coma, Tony has long dreamlike experience that is woven throughout the episode. Tony awakens as an ordinary precision optics salesman inside a hotel room in Costa Mesa, California, missing his New Jersey accent. That night, he notices a lighthouse that glows on the horizon as he looks out the window, and he also goes to the hotel's bar where he notices a TV showing a brush fire in Costa Mesa. The next morning, he goes to a convention and is asked for ID to gain admittance. Unfortunately, Tony has someone else's wallet and briefcase, one belonging to a man named Kevin Finnerty from Kingman, Arizona, to whom he bears a resemblance. Tony says that he must have unintentionally picked up these items the previous evening at a bar across the street from his hotel. He returns to the bar, where a group of business travelers overhear him telling his story to the bartender. When asked what Costa Mesa is like, the bartender replies, "Around here, it's dead." The group invites Tony to join them for dinner, during which he discusses his life in more detail, alluding to a midlife crisis by saying, I mean, who am I? Where am I going? As he and his group leave, Tony notices a commercial on TV which displays the question, are sin, disease, and death real? Followed by the cross. After dinner, outside the hotel, Tony makes a pass at a woman from the group. She responds at first, but then cuts him off. She tells him that she saw his face when he got off the phone with his wife, whose voice is not Carmela's. Suddenly, a helicopter spotlight shines on the pair, to which the woman says, they must be looking for a perp. It is here that Tony awakens from his original coma and rips out his breathing tube. He is moaning, who am I? Where am I going? The dream resumes when he is placed in another coma as he checks into a different hotel, the Omni, under Finnerty's name. Two Buddhist monks overhear him checking in and, thinking he is Finnerty, accost him saying they have a horrible winter at the monastery because of Finnerty's faulty heating system. Tony tells them that he's not Finnerty, which makes the monks angry. They scuffle briefly and the monks flee, leaving Tony shocked at the violence. The next morning, the hotel elevator is out of order. So Tony takes the stairs. As he's walking down the stairs, he slips and falls. When brought to an emergency room, the doctor tells Tony that aside from having a minor concussion, his CT scan showed some dark spots on his brain, which indicate lack of oxygen. The doctor states that this indicates early stages of Alzheimer's disease. When the doctor leaves him at his bed, Tony is seen saying, I'm lost, to himself. After he returns to his hotel room, Tony picks up the phone but hangs up before dialing, while the beacon of light flashes on the horizon.
So the first off, before I go into the dream sequence, you mentioned Chris. Another opportunity for me to feel for Chris. You know, we're finally trying to move past long-term parking. He's got this Maserati from John because John needed cash quick.
Right.
Oh, Chris has got the Maserati, and again, it's just another opportunity for him to get crapped on later. But to look at the dream sequence, man, it's like I'll be honest. I've always been one who didn't necessarily care for a dream sequence because it's not real. So depending on what they're dealing with, like what are we really talking about? But when you see this particular one dealing with identity and who I am, even at the beginning of the dream system, he thought his name was Tony Soprano. He just didn't have the accent,
Mm-hmm.
and then then he starts going by Kevin Finnerty, and I laugh because when the monk hit him, he hit me, he hit me. He's just- he was just so just adamant. This man, he hit me. So you have to laugh at it, but it's his dreams more than this dream sequence. I like the dreams that we've had where he's sitting in the car riding with his dad and Richie Aprile, and like those definitely were telling him what was going on. And the last dream we got is what let him know that he had killed Tony B. But this one, just looking at this episode, I'm trying to get an understanding as to what the dream sequence is telling us. Because just by this episode, I don't know. I don't know.
I have also heard the theory that people give is that Junior actually killed Tony, and everything after episode one is him in like a stage of purgatory. Could he? That's why the Buddhists are there. Is like, could he assume this, and he would become Kevin Finnerty in this life, and that he's getting a taste of what his life would be, but he's also dealing with these people that are showing up in his life that, oh wait, this is Ralphie beside me, or he sees Tony B and all of that. I have heard that theory.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're only talking about this episode. So as we get further, I'm able to, give a little bit more clarity because we're talking about a little bit more. So, when we get to the family reunion, I guess that's what we're calling. Then, we can talk a little bit more. But yeah, just based on what we have, I'm saying they haven't given me enough to be able to say this is what Tony needs to be able to accomplish in this dream sequence to be able to live. Like this, it's not a competition. This is
Right.
just, as you say, his purgatory. This is just what he's living right now.
Right. So let's move on to Mayhem. It's the third episode of part one of season 6, the 68th overall episode of the series, written by Matt Weiner and directed by Jack Bender. It originally aired on March the 26th, 2006. On a tip from Vito, Paulie and a member of his crew carried DeBartolo attempt to burglarize an apartment belonging to a Colombian drug dealers. However, they find the apartment is not empty as expected, and a fierce fight ensues. The building superintendent is killed, and Paulie and Carrie also manage to shoot the two drug dealers. Paulie's groin is injured in the melee. The mobsters find a large amount of money hidden in a dishwasher. Meanwhile, Christopher and Bobby confront AJ about his attempt to purchase a gun and try to dissuade him from going after Junior, who is in custody. They assure him that Tony would not want him involved. Afterward, AJ accuses Carmela of putting the two up to the talk, though she has no idea what he is talking about. Now, let me say this. I realize that this is a fictional TV show. However, if they came to me and they said, Joey, what one piece of advice could you give us? I would say never let Paulie go anywhere, especially to an apartment, because it never works out whenever he goes.
Anytime you send Polly to an apartment or to collect
To
money,
collect money. That's what, yeah, to collect money.
something's gonna happen because it happened with the Russian. It happened with well, not Emil, because Emil is the one that Christopher got, but the hotel owner.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's always gonna be something if you send Polly to collect. So nah, you're 1,000% right.
Because as we talk about, like, the Russian didn't haggle. He's like, yes, the money's right there. Here you go.
Paulie just had to be a jerk, bro. He just had to be a jerk. And then whenever the dude gets upset at you being a jerk, then you want to act out. Come on, man. Pure toxic behavior. Come on, Paula.
Tony's dream sequence from the previous episodes continue. At his hotel room, he receives a court summons from the Buddhist monks addressed to Kevin Finnery. He hit me.
He hit me. He hit me.
And he begins to question his actual identity. He seeks answers from the bartender as well as from the monks who initiated the summons, but does not get any answers. Tension surges within the DeMeo family. Sylvia makes rulings on how Bobby and Vito are to split Eugene's former revenue and on Tony's cut from Paulie and Vito's Colombian score. None of the parties involved like his decision. Paulie and Vito delay giving the $200,000 to Carmela since they do not want to part with it in the event Tony does not recover. Just wrong. They're just wrong.
It's Vito, bro. Vito's the worst. Like, hear me out. Like Vito's. I mean, we could give it to him, but and God forbid, God forbid he doesn't wake up. We just gave $400K to no, bro. Like that's snake in the grass, man. Vito.
So let's go into that. Vito quietly starts the campaign to position himself as a potential new leader, pointing to his recent weight loss as a sign of better health and maintaining a cordial relationship with the Lupertazzi acting boss, Phil Leotardo, who's a second cousin of Vito's wife, Marie. He also happens to be in the hospital when Meadows' fiance Finn turns up and makes a threatening pass at him. Oh, Vito and Finn. We should go to a ball game sometime.
That's the new odd couple, bro. Like, if CBS wanted to bring the odd couple back, Vito and Finn. I'm telling you, man, because Finn gets uncomfortable because he knows the truth. Vito knows that he knows the truth, but Vito also knows this: he ain't gonna say nothing. He's like, because if he was gonna say something, he would have said something already. So I'm just gonna make this dude feel uncomfortable because he's not gonna say anything. Little does Vito know, Finn was ready to leave. Ready to leave. So yeah.
Carmela bumps into Dr. Melfi at the supermarket and receives an offer of help, which she at that point refuses. Carmela later becomes livid when she sees a TV special about the shooting, in which there are clips of AJ speaking to the press after she explicitly forbade it. Carmela drags AJ out of bed, berating him for putting the entire affair on national television and embarrassing the family. She tells him that he is a cross the rest of his family has to bear.
Pick up the pieces, AJ.
The next day, Carmela decides to have a session with Dr. Melfi after all, during which she tearfully regrets insulting AJ and reminisces on her attraction to Tony since the two first met. She goes on to acknowledge that she has a choice in picking a husband, but that children had no option in choosing their parents. Chris's passion about entering the movie industry is reborn. He has Benny Fazio and Murmur rough up screenwriter J.T. Dolan and orders him to write a script for a slasher mob film he wants to produce. Poor J.T.
But before you go too much further, right? Let me hit Carmela right quick.
Okay.
She was so rude to Dr. Melfi at the store. She was so rude. And listen, I understand as Carmela, and I mean, yeah, we're talking about a fictional show, but we're talking about it. We're watching it. So let's get into it. I know she does not like the fact that Tony lied to her about Dr. Melfi being a woman.
Right.
We've seen that whenever like all of it we've seen, but she had no reason to come at Dr. Melfi like that at all. Dr. Melfi came at her from a place of concern. I don't need your help. I don't need your help. Go to hell with your help. I mean, really. But then she's right there sobbing. And you get the idea that the anger that she's throwing at Dr. Melfi isn't for Dr. Melfi. I feel like she really does have some I don't want to necessarily say the word resentment, but there's some animosity there about her choice to choose this man that she knew was a criminal.
Right. Right. And she goes into that a little bit. She had the option of choosing her husband, but her children don't. And she's had that, I don't know what the word of it is not animosity, but she's had mixed feelings about different things when her and Tony go back and forth about what was it? It was the where the money was. Was it
And
like
the duck,
yeah,
yeah,
the
uh,
food in the sacks, right? When
yeah,
that
and the
what
duck
what
food. That was the duck food.
and then having the relationship with the teacher at AJ's school. So she goes back and forth.
She's a flip flopper, and look, she's entitled to be a flip flopper. But the thing about me the thing that gets me about Carmela is the high horse with the flip flopping. You know, if you know you're a flip flopper, then
Get off your
don't,
high horse.
get off your high horse with the flip flopping shit. Just don't do it.
It's more like a hobby horse, that they used to go back and used to, rock back and forth. That rocking hobby horse. That's what she's on.
But you don't go nowhere.
Oh, okay. I hear you. I hear you. It's time to
Thank you.
get out in front of that drugstore. Jump off. You done rode your quarter out. Time to go.
That's it. That I played your song.
Chris later arranges a meeting with potential investors for the production, their chief advisor and partner being Little Carmine. JT comes up with the title, Cleaver, and explains the premise, but the investors, which include Silvio, Vito, and Larry Boy Barisi, seem confused about its plot. Nevertheless, Chris assures them that the film is a guaranteed win, citing profitable films with tangentially related subject matter. Despite orders to allow only family to see Tony, Silvio and Paulie are smuggled in by Carmela and Meadow. Left alone with Tony, Paulie proceeds to treat his unconscious boss with an interminable and profanity-laden update of his current state of affairs. Tony's
And
heart rate escalates steadily, but Paulie does not notice it until he goes into cardiac arrest.
metal, nothing but positivity. And then
Wait, I can't
Paul,
hear you. It might be me. Okay, go ahead.
nothing but
Oh,
positivity. They
I still
say.
can't hear you. I'm sure the audience can hear you over and over again, but I can't. All right. Okay, try it.
Nothing but positivity
There you go. Nothing
is
but positivity.
is what Paulie is told before he's left alone with Tony, and then immediately goes into his negative rant that does, in fact, cause. So, what does this bring to mind? This brings to mind an episode of The Office, ladies and gentlemen, when Michael Scott is walking around in the stress episode and finding out that he is the one who stresses everybody out in the office because he was wearing, what was it, Stanley's watch?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what this is. That's what Paulie is. Paulie is Michael Scott to Stanley. That's what Paulie is for Tony. I see you drinking that Starry. Don't think you slick.
I'm not hitting it.
Don't
Sorry,
think you
folks.
slick.
Oh, look, it's blurred out when I hold it
Blood,
up.
blood. I was like,
It's
big dog.
starry though, folks. I'm not trying to hide it. It is starry.
I was like, wow, it really does blur out the label. But yeah, I saw you drinking it, and I was sitting there getting excited. I was like, I could use a star.
Well, folks, I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain. Whenever we go places to speak, TJ is provided with a starry, free of charge. I got to pay for mine.
It's negotiated. It's the simple things, people. The simple pleasures. I could have asked for an extra 1,000 off the top. All I wanted was a star. That lets you know where where my priorities are.
So, hospital staff rush in and attempt to revive Tony. In Tony's dream, Paulie's voice appears as a muffled voice from an adjoining room at his hotel, prompting him to bang on the wall while yelling at whoever it is to shut up. Having found a flyer for the Finnerty family reunion in his briefcase, he's greeted outside of the venue by a man who looks like his cousin Tony B. The man tries to get Tony to enter the light festooned house, assuring him that everyone's here and that he's going home, but he also tells Tony that he must first let go of his business and hand over his briefcase. Tony is reluctant, relying that he has already given away a briefcase which had his whole life inside and does not want to do it the same with the one he has now. Standing at the steps of his house, Tony hesitates for some time, with the figure of someone similar to his mother, Olivia, standing by the doorway in front of him, and the faint voice of a little girl coming from the trees behind him, pleading with him not to go. In the hospital, Meadow is calling to her father. Tony chooses not to enter the house and awakes in the hospital. His first words after beckoning Carmela to come closer are, "I'm dead, right?"
So now we can get a little. Now I can talk a little bit more about the dream sequence. I got more from the dream sequence in the second episode than I got in the first one. This was all. It was 1,000% his purgatory to get him to come to terms with dying.
Mm-hmm.
So you're stripped of the ego of your name, which is why in this dream sequence he's not Tony Soprano. That doesn't matter anymore when you're talking about life and death. So he's
Right.
going through this dream sequence as Kevin Finnerty. He has no real bearings, no opportunity to get any footing. Tony Soprano is a key manipulator. Tony Soprano can get the upper hand in any situation. But once you strip that away, now you're finding out what he is at the core. So now it's like, okay, you stripped away the name, and now you see all these people that have died in Tony's life ultimately in this house, and we get the silhouette of Livia. And you, so yeah, with everything going on with Paulie, that was supposed to be it. Had he went inside the house, he would have died. But just the way they use, the child's voice, the little girl's voice screaming from the trees, "Don't go," to represent, Meadow yelling for her father. I mean, like that's powerful. That is powerful. So you have to. It's just that was dope. That was dope. I can. I mean, I guess I can only hope we all get that opportunity, right?
Right.
To try and fight for ourselves, even if we're unconscious.
Later, heavily sedated and still largely unable to talk, Tony sits in a chair at the foot of his bed and listens to an excited Christopher explain his movie venture to him. His nephew says he left a position for Tony to become a major investor in the project. Christopher then noticed an Ojibwe saying taped onto the wall, "Sometimes I go about in pity for myself, and all the while a great wind carries me across the sky." With Tony now conscious, Paulie and Vito anxiously rush to get their cuts to Carmela. In the hospital lobby, when they hand over the cash, Carmela is initially grateful. However, before the elevator doors close, she turns around in time to see their facial expressions turn sour. Carmela then returns to Tony's room, saying to him, "I don't know how you do it," while looking at the package Paulie and Vito just handed her. She will warn Tony in a later episode to keep an eye on them, particularly Vito, remarking that he is ambitious. The episode fades out to a 50s sounding cover of Over the Rainbow while Carmela lovingly dabs Tony's chapped lip with a water soaked cotton bud, saying, "That must feel good, huh? The little things." So we do have a couple of pieces of trivia. This is now the third time that Paulie has been kicked in the groin throughout the show's history. The first time was by the Russian in the episode Pine Barrens, the second being by Min Matrone in the episode Eloise. And Seal quotes Spider Man, "With great power comes great responsibility."
That was him. Wasn't that him talking to his wife when he was getting ready? Because
I
she was
think
saying
so. Yeah.
they called you Cap, or they called you Skip. They called you Skip. And he's like, I never wanted to be the big boss, but then Bobby called me Skip, and I was like, and then he has the asthma attack.
Right. Right. So, out of everybody, there's really no good person to lead this group if something happens to Tony. I would say other than Bobby, but I don't think Bobby really wants it.
I don't think Bobby wants it at all. Because if Bobby were to ever have the big chair, he wouldn't have time for his train.
Right.
It would.
Bobby wants to earn and he wants to play with his train
That's
and
it.
be a
It would be
dad to
more
his
Janice
kids.
running it. It would be more Janice running it than Bobby. But the thing about it is, you don't want Janice in charge. Janice will have Jersey and war with New York in no time. Janice is not the one. Janice is even more volatile than Tony is. And I think that's because she's older than Tony. So she got exposed to it without having the help. Like she's the oldest, so she caught that smoke.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't want her in charge. But yeah, if you're looking at everybody, even the twin?
Oh, shoot. It was I just thought of it.
It's not Carlo. Let's
No.
got his coming.
We'll come across it, I'm sure.
Yeah, like I mean, even him. Everybody on the Soprano side has shown us some serious dysfunction that you would not want them in charge, especially Polly Walnuts. You do not want. She's a whore. You don't want Polly Walnuts.
Son of a bitch. That's my
Son of
favorite. That's my favorite moment coming up. No, it was the other way around. What? We'll get there. We'll get there.
yeah.
All right. So we made it to the fleshy part of the thigh. Episode 4 of part 1 of season 6. 69th overall episode of the series. Written by Diane Froloy and Andrew Schneider and directed by Alan Taylor. Originally aired on April the 2nd, 2006. Tony's condition improves as he awaits surgery. He tells the nurse that he now sees life in a different way. Aaron Arkaway and Pastor Bob Brewster, an evangelical minister, wish Tony and Carmela for a good outcome of his operation. After the surgery, Tony is disgusted when he learns the insurance representative wants to send him home as soon as possible. Tony spends his remaining days at the hospital interacting with two patients, John Schwinn and rapper Deluxe. Deluxe expresses admiration for Tony and invites him to watch a boxing match in his hospital room. While watching the fight, Paulie moans about how alone everyone is, and Schwinn discusses the interconnectivity of all life. Deluxe agrees with Schwinn, saying everything is everything. I'm down with that. Later, Tony confides to Schwinn that he is starting to believe that they are all part of something bigger, but Schwinn tells him that doctors found out that it has laryngeal cancer, and Tony offers his condolences. Now, this is the fantastic Hal Holbrook playing Schwinn. Just wanted to give him props to that. A fantastic actor who told me something once. Did you know this?
What's that?
He, for years, I mean, almost up until the point that he died, toured with a show called Mark Twain Tonight. And it came to a college that I was working security in. And he said that it doesn't matter who the president is, it doesn't matter who's running for president, doesn't matter Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter anything. Every 4 years, when on a presidential cycle, entertainment is always down. People don't go to plays as much, they don't see movies as much. All forms of entertainment dip. And he says he thinks it's because of people's uncertainty about the future.
That would make sense. That would
So
probably make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, props to you for knowing a guy. I mean, because he's one of those actors that I can't tell you always what his character's name is, but he always adds to the scene.
Yes.
Like he always adds, even if he's only got two or three lines. You look at him, he's believable. So in the position of Swin, like he played the role, and I'm trying to remember what Paulie said that was kind of like disrespectful because Swin had to correct himself when Paulie said something to respond to his first statement about we're not anything. You see those boxers and you think they're two separate individuals, but they're actually one. And then
Hmm.
Paulie's like, "What the fuck?" Like he said something that just throws Swin off for a second, and then he comes back, and Tony was again upset with Paulie for speaking out of turn. So this just it's planting seeds. It's planting seeds. So fans, if you are watching this and you are actually watching this for the first time with us, it's planting seeds. That's all I gotta say.
Tony learns Carmela and AJ have reconciled and that his son got a job at Blockbuster. He meets the paramedic that checked his wallet and accuses him of stealing $2,000 from it. The man denies taking any money for himself, but Christopher and others intimidate him to pay the money back. Paulie visits his dying Aunt Dottie, a nun, who informs him that she is actually his mother
Son of a bitch.
because she broke her vow of celibacy and did not want to shame her family. She had her sister raise Paulie as if he were her son. He confronts Nucci, the woman who raised him, and his worst fears are confirmed. Devastated by the news and questioning his own identity, Paulie struggles to remain focused at work, angering Tony. After Dottie's funeral, Paulie tells Nucci he will no longer support her financially and throws her flat screen TV out a window.
Who was it? You go get it from your other kids, Rich and Dottie. He was so upset. Mom's not mom, cause mom's a whore. Like, I'm sorry to laugh at his pain, but he's done so much delivering of unnecessary animosity sometimes. So for karma's side of it, you're like, okay, he's getting some comeuppance. It's just the sad thing about it, he's not gonna see it that way.
Right,
He's in a how could this happen to me situation, not thinking about what Dottie could have gone through, not thinking about what that meant for Newts. Like he's just on his own, just he's upset and he's extremely childish right now. But it's just credit to the actor. I don't know if that's like how he is in real life, but he made you feel something for him in that moment,
and
because he felt betrayed.
I get it. I get it. If you find that out, I get it. You have all of those things. And you can be, I feel like you can be mad at both, but you don't take it that far. You can be hurt, you can be angry,
Think about who we
but,
talking.
it's like the old Eddie Murphy comedy bit. Do you take it too far? You give him 1 foot, you want to go to, give him a rope, thinks he's a cowboy.
Oh, big time facts. If the Chappelle show was still a thing, Dave Chappelle had a reoccurring skit when keeping it real goes wrong, and that's exactly what we. I mean, he was fully within his right to blast off, but that was an overstep. Because again, like I said, he was not thinking about anybody else. He wasn't thinking about Dottie and whatever shame she may have been dealing with, considering her commitment to the vow of becoming a nun. She made a mistake,
Right.
and then Newt took him in with her children, raised him as her own. He didn't know anybody else. He didn't have to. And the reason he was so close to her was because she took him in and raised her as his own, so much to the point to where she was closer to him than her kids were which is why we're gonna see him come back home.
When Paulie confesses the news about his true mother to Tony, he urges him to reconcile with Nucci, saying his foster mother brought him up and helped him numerous times in his childhood.
Yep.
Tony criticizes Bobby for his model train hobby, and Bobby apologizes for his absence that led to Tony getting shot by Junior. Tony insists that he never wants to hear his uncle mentioned again. Again, here's Tony. They're dead to me. Everybody's always dead to him.
He's dead to me. He doesn't exist to me. I don't want to hear his name again. He's dead.
In the hospital, Bobby meets Marvin, a member of Deluxe's entourage, writing a song. Deluxe's injuries, many of his followers and colleagues believe, will help his career by providing him a huge boost in street cred, while Marvin is struggling to attain fame. Bobby then proposes an idea to Marvin the next time he meets him. For $8,000, Bobby will help jumpstart Marvin's career by shooting him in the fleshy part of the thigh. Marvin agrees, but can only pay $7,000, which Bobby reluctantly accepts. Marvin also requests that he not be informed when the hit is about to take place. A few nights later, after leaving a fast food restaurant with his girlfriend, Marvin is instead shot in his buttocks, is what the script says here. As the rapper cries out in pain, Bobby flees the scene. Bobby later brings a hefty envelope of cash to Tony, saying he had a good week.
Bro, I'm sorry, man. Like I laugh at this, and again, I'm laughing because this is good fiction. Props to the actor playing Deluxe is actually Tretch, who is a rapper in the group Naughty by Nature. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. So he walks out of that restaurant so happy. Like when I tell you, I rewound that scene twice because he walked out so happy. And then, and this girl is standing by the car. She's waiting. They're both excited. I don't know if it's the chicken joint. I'm assuming it's the chicken joint. They leave the chicken joint. They're about to eat them chicken tenders, man. They're so excited. And then pop, ha! I'm sorry. That was just Tretch. You deserve an Emmy for that right there, my friend.
That may be my new pop
Yes. Oh God.
Following Dick Barone's death, his son Jason takes over ownership of the Soprano family's sanitation front and tries to sell the company without Tony's approval. After Tony, Paulie, and Patsy
Parisi
order him not to proceed with the sale, Jason discovers he is too far along in the process to back out. The company trying to buy Barone's routes, Sinelli Sanitation, is associated with Johnny.
Right.
After a violent encounter between two garbage crews and after some back and forth negotiation between Tony and Johnny, Tony agrees with more favorable offer from Johnny and allows the sale to go through. Tony also acquiesces to Jason's mother, who begs Tony to make sure no harm comes to her son. The pleading of a mother for her son drives Paulie to leave the hospital room in tears. Is that when Father Phil comes in? Doesn't he come in and Paulie like, it's better than what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, better than you nuns over there. No, look, again, and I called these 4 episodes in the beginning, Big Boys Do in Fact Cry, because we've seen, now that we're on season 6, we've seen all these guys drop this hypocritical, toxic masculinity about you don't cry, you don't show emotions, and here we are seeing examples of all these men expressing emotion, and not all of them are getting shot. I can understand if you are Deluxe and you walked out the chicken joint, you just got some hot fries. You waited an extra 9 minutes for them to come out fresh. You walking out, you see your old lady, you smiling, and then pop, ah! What happens? I can understand Trent's wanting to cry, right? That makes sense. But Paulie, and again, I'm not trying to diminish. I'm just pointing out the problem with this lifestyle that they create that does not allow for emotions to be shared, which is why Tony was so adamant about not letting anybody know that he was in therapy in season one. It's because they just don't accept it, but yet they all need it. They all experience
Absolutely.
these highs and lows, man. It's crazy. If Paulie was in therapy, tell me Paulie wouldn't be doing pretty good. I mean, he got to be doing something because I mean he's walking around calling everybody whores.
Right.
I like how he says it though, because he said it with a hard H.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it.
On the day Tony is leaving the hospital, he passes Schwinn's room but does not say goodbye. The EMT worker accused of stealing from Tony approaches him with an envelope of cash, but Tony does not take it. As he's wheeled outside, Tony takes a few minutes to observe the bustle of life outside. He grabs Janice's hand and comments that every day is a gift to him now. Back home, Tony lounges at the patio, seemingly enjoying the elements of nature, listening to the wind rustle the tree leaves. At the bank of a river, Paulie finds Jason getting ready to row his boat and viciously beats him with a metal pole. Paulie demands a monthly cut from Jason equal to the cost of Nucci's retirement home expenses, warning him not to say a word to Tony as he brandishes his gun. Paulie walks away from the pier as the wind stirs the tree leaves around him.
So there's a scene, because now that I know Tony's out of the hospital, there's a scene that we didn't chop up that I think is big to go like towards what we got coming, and that's the conversation that Tony has when he comes to with Phil outside of the hospital because Tony's being tough and acting like he's not hurting when he shouldn't have been standing up like that, but he wanted to play the role. And that's him and Paulie now walking back because he had asked Paulie how many of something, and then talking about those the routes for the deal, and Paulie doesn't have the correct number, so that's when Tony finds out what's going on with him and Nooch and all that. But just Tony and Phil trying to come to terms, and seeing the back and forth. This is huge, obviously, for what we got coming, but it's just Tony would go that far. He would go that far. He's just coming out of a coma from being shot, and as I mentioned earlier, he had a huge gaping hole in his stomach, and now he's standing up,
Right.
right? Like,
But you see that a lot in real life with politicians, with celebrities. Now, inside the hospital, you're covered by all these oaths, but these cameras, they're outside too, and you can't be seen being rolled to. So you've got to go up there. I'm reminded because I feel like this is a lot of us as a society. I'm reminded of shortly after 9/11. I don't know if you remember when they had the World Series game between the Diamondbacks and the Yankees, and it's at Yankee Stadium, and they had President Bush come out and throw the first pitch. Now, at the time, he had unprecedented support. Like he was in the 90s support. Like you couldn't say, but um oh my goodness, it just went out of my head. What is the oh my goodness, the ball player's name? Um
A-Rod.
no,
Derek.
Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter. Thank you so much. I think Jeter's catching for him. But before they go out, he says, Mr. President, I want you to know we as a nation are behind you at this moment. However, when you throw that ball, if you do not get it over the plate, they are going to boo you.
Fast.
That is us as a society. The
Fast.
same people who realize everything that you as a president are going through at this moment are also the same people that if he doesn't walk out, even though he's got that gaping hole, if he then in a sense, then the crowd is going to his family. They're all going to look at him. Oh, he can be hurt. He's not the leader. You got to buck up and put your shoulders back. I'm okay. They can't get me down because that's who we are as a society.
So, and I guess this is why you get paid the big bucks, because it's a major, amazing segue into our next episode. But it shows Tony willing to put forth a facade and a front of being okay when he's really not.
Right.
We know he's not okay because, as I've said now 5 times, he had a gaping hole in his stomach, right?
That's the doctor. You can be the doc. You can be the no hole doc, but you're the person that they call, like, for famous people, celebrities. You're the doctor that comes out and explains things during the news conference. Well, how is Mr. Soprano? Yes, I would just like to say that he has a gaping hole.
Like, look, you would much rather me be that person than the person signing off to the side, because I wouldn't know what the hell I was saying. They'd be, I'd just be throwing up. I'd just be throwing up stuff. Hey, you wouldn't even know what's going on. But the hearing impaired community will be real pissed. They will be real upset.
Well, what happened? Well, I just want you to know we got through the press conference. However, the hearing compared community has no idea what's going on, and I think we're at war with the Crips.
That's it. That's it.
He's
Like,
throwing gang signs.
at some point in time during that press conference, did he sign the throwing and catching of a touchdown pass? Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He was over there doing the Cabbage Patch. He was playing Nintendo.
I could have swore I saw him playing Mario Kart. They were talking about a gaping hole, and he was throwing shells. Awesome.
You're making like the little shadow puppets, dude.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Because that's all I know how to do. They say Junior Soprano shot Tony Soprano. I'll be like, gaping hole. Gape. I love it. I love it.
All right.
Oh, Jesus
Mr.
Christ.
and Mrs. John Sacrimony Request is the 5th episode of part 1 of season 6, the 70th overall episode of the series, written by Terrence Winter and directed by Steve Buscemi. It originally aired on April the 9th, 2006. Johnny is granted a 6-hour supervised release from prison in order to attend his daughter Allegra's wedding. Tony hires a new bodyguard and driver, Perry Annunziata. I have no idea. I murdered that last name, but that's okay.
Muscles. Just call them muscles.
He is welcomed back by Dr. Melfi, who inquires about his position towards Junior, but Tony says he never wants to talk about his uncle again.
He's dead to me.
They talk about AJ, and Tony says he's disappointed in his son flunking out of college and working a petty job. A judge decides Junior's mental condition has deteriorated to the level where he should be held in a psychiatric facility while awaiting his retrial. Tony proudly displays his surgery scars on his stomach to his crew and discusses the surgical procedures he underwent. Phil asks for a private talk with Tony, saying that Johnny wants him to take care of killing New York capo Rusty Milio. Fearing he may wage another power struggle within the Lupertazzi family, Tony refuses the request. Before Tony arrives home, Carmela fetches the newspaper and sees an article touting Junior's cushy psych lockup. She throws that section in the trash before Tony can see it. At the Bada Bing, Ahmed and Muhammad ask about getting some Tech 9 semi-automatic weapons for their family troubles. Later, at the wedding, Tony collapses when he is asked by U.S. Marshals to remove his shoes for a security check. Your thoughts?
I mean, they can say they were fully within their right. When I'm thinking about Tony, I mean, again, I don't know necessarily how much time has passed, but anything less than 6 months, and I have to remind the audience that he had a gaping hole in his stomach. So the fact that he's standing up at all is a blessing and a half. But obviously, Tony doesn't want to look. Tony's had several uh, panic attacks that caused him to lose consciousness. One was in front of Johnny Sack. He had one at the little sock hop event or whatever you want to call it when he was with Carmella. But for the most part, he's able to keep it kind of calm. That the wedding was a big event with a whole lot of prying eyes, people looking at him, and that being a sign of weakness. Little do we know, we'll get a bigger sign of weakness a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. At the reception, Tony accepts an envelope of cash from Vito and is able to talk to Johnny for the first time since his arrest. As a personal favor, Johnny asks Tony to perform the hit on Rusty. Surrounded by U.S. Marshals, Tony and Johnny join the latter's family at a large table and discuss the situation in code. Tony reluctantly agrees to the hit, but he and Chris disagree on how the hit should be carried out. Here it is. Johnny's pleasant time at the wedding is cut short when the marshals inform him it's time to return him to jail by cutting off the departing newlyweds' Rolls Royce so Johnny can leave first. An emotional Johnny tears up and cries openly in front of the guests as marshals haul him away. Attendees are angered by Johnny's treatment, and his wife Jenny faints.
The part that was so cold is the fact, like, the newlyweds are leaving. Like, we're
Right.
actually in the car and leaving.
Literally 90 more seconds. And
That's it.
he'd be like, thank you, fellas. I appreciate it. Show me the way. And he would willingly go. They were petty. That's what it was.
Extremely petty. We want your daughter's day to be ruined by you being cuffed off before she can leave. Like, had she left and there been a scene after she left, it wouldn't have mattered. She didn't have to see any of it. They did that totally on purpose, and I'm just like, it was. Excuse me, it was cold as ice. But then the looks that I mean, he was sobbing. He was sobbing. But I mean, it's like in that particular situation, what can you do really? Like, and I think ultimately that's where it's at. It's like, what really can I do? I can't cause a stink. I can't tell my guys to shoot them down. I'm on trial for my life here.
Right.
Like I had to pay all this money just to get the 6 hours. So it's like, nah. And I get it. He didn't want to take a chance in forfeiting his money. So you gotta listen to the rules. You gotta do what they say do. So yeah, like I said, we talked about this. Johnny's a bit of a douchebag, so I don't necessarily feel sorry for him. But in that moment, you're looking just at the situation. It's a father who did everything in his power for his daughter, and then also looking at I mean, like their family dynamic is something else. Jenny wasn't that big whenever they met, so something has happened for her to put that weight on. Then you got, um, pronounce it's a medicine.
Allegra.
Her name, Allegra. So you got Allegra, who's also a little bit on the heavy set side, but then you've got the other sister who is the complete opposite. She dealt with bulimia because she didn't want to be like her mom and her sister, right? Like she's the exact opposite. Does it always have to be about food with you people? Like that's like Johnny's got a difficult. Again, it's just adding more layers to what we see because we didn't know a whole lot about Johnny's personal life. We just saw the douchebag. So now being introduced to his family, you see more. He wants what everybody else wants. He wants what Tony wants.
Right.
So yeah.
Afterwards, member of Tony's crew discussed the scene with Phil and the Lupertazes. Phil and Chris agreed that Johnny can be made to talk by the government. Tony defends Johnny's display of emotion. Vito informs his wife he's heading out to make collections, but instead goes to a gay club. While dancing in leather fetish garb with other patrons, He is spotted by two New York associates making collections. Although Vito tries to play it off as a joke, they call him a disparaging name and leave. Yeah, he rides the pony. He does the pony.
Oh, riding the mess out that thing, man. Like that's the Vito. I don't even call that riding the pony anymore. That's the
That's the
Vito, man.
Vito. The
That's
Vito.
the Vito.
Vito collects a gun and some cash from home and checks into a motel. After phoning Silvio, Vito makes no further contact with anyone and does not return subsequent calls from Tony. Tony talks to Melfi about his crew and their perception of him. Melfi comments that Tony tries to protect himself as an alpha male. She suggests he should act as if he is fine and do something to let the subordinates know that he remains a decisive leader. At Satriali's, Tony tries to bait Perry into a confrontation under the pretext that he slammed the refrigerator doors, but he does not respond. With his crew looking on, Tony punches his bodyguard, starting a one-sided fight that ends with Perry bleeding on the floor and Tony defiantly walking away, seemingly unscathed. Afterwards, Tony retreats to the bathroom and vomits blood. Because he did have a huge gaping hole.
Oh man, come on.
Leaning on the bathroom sink and looking at himself in the mirror, Tony gives himself a twisted, satisfied smile. The moment is short-lived, however, as Tony violently vomits again in the toilet.
So I feel like I've met people like Perry in my life, and so I don't usually feel sorry for those hotheads like that that are really ready to jump into a battle, even when you haven't necessarily done anything with the intention to offend. They
Right.
just look for the excuses to fight.
Right.
So he did nothing to deserve that L that he took, and everybody in there knew when Tony hit him. Oh snap! Don't do it like that because they saw him coming back. Don't do it. No, 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 no. And then the fight breaks down, and Perry ends up losing. So he's in there, laid down, and obviously we'll get to talk about the apology, which is hilarious. We sit there apologizing. I didn't think I shut the refrigerator on. I didn't think I slammed it, but I must have. I'm sorry, right? Like so, I just I get why Tony did, what he did because he felt like he needed to show his guys he was the boss. Um, the whole thing with Vito, we're gonna chop it up, especially when we get into Johnny Cakes. It's just it gets deep.
It
Definitely
does. It
deep. But
does.
at the end of the day, what's more important? Is it the money you make for me or what you doing behind closed doors? Because I've known you for, let's say hypothetically, Tony's known Vito for 15 years. Tony's never had to see it. He's never had to see the behavior that Vito has or whatever Vito's doing that Tony doesn't necessarily care for. Tony's never had to see it. Vito's been able to actively been able to do this for however long and it not been a problem. So is the money more important or is the potential hate that you may see from people speculating? Because again, Vito's been quiet about it.
Right.
Up until he wanted to do the veto, he was good. But the moment you try and dance, the
That's true.
moment you try to dance, you just need more people need to walk out of chicken joints. But then you get popped in the ass.
That's true. That's true. Ah!
That's it. That's it. Pop. Ah! That's it. Just screaming, man.
So a quick overview. You set that up very well. A quick overview for our next group of episodes. You got everything that's happening with Vito that you said you got, because we have to remember he's Tony's best earner.
Best earner. Best.
He's also Phil is his wife's second cousin, and so you got the Lupertazzi connection there, and you've got now, as they've discussed in this episode, a weakened Johnny Sack. Oh, they can make him turn because of everything that happened here. So it sets us up to a lot of things. You've still got Tony now weakened physically, trying to recover from it, but not doing a great job. You got AJ out there. Everything that's happened with Finn and Vito is about to come back up in these next group of episodes. Um,
Vito and Vito and Finn. That's the jingle for their Odd Couple like show.
so what happened when the security guard? But no, I'm not going to get into it. No, it was the other way around. What?
Right, that's it. Vito and Finn. Bro, if I briefly before we get ready to get out of here, I was reminded yesterday, last night about 11:30. Another reason why I love The Sopranos so much. I told you about another show that I watch called The Wire,
Right.
and Michael K. Williams plays a character Omar, and he and another character played by Andre Royal. They are that show, and I recognize that we would not have gotten Omar if The Sopranos didn't happen because Michael K. Williams and I saw because he's been gone now 2 years, I believe.
I think that's right.
Um, but he did an interview and he had said, he was getting ready to give up with acting because the roles were few and far between, and he's running out of money. And he's like, I'm sitting at home and my episode of Sopranos comes on. He was on one episode of Sopranos.
Mm-hmm.
He said, my episode of Sopranos came on, and he said, it doesn't make sense. He was like, I'm that talented. I'm good enough to do this.
Right.
So I need to be doing this. And a couple weeks later, he's getting cast as Omar in The Wire that would definitively change his career forever because from Omar came Chalky White, came that stint that he got on Community. So yeah, big fan of his and his work and how he controlled a scene, and knowing that Sopranos had something to do with him getting back on the saddle just makes so
All right. So, but before I let you go ahead and plug any and everything you got, my friend.
well. If you want to see more of what this guy's got going on, continue to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends so they'll subscribe. Also, the Joey Harris Show. You'll be able to catch me there. We're in that dry season. I think I maxed out early in the year, so I think I was a little too cocky. And now here it is. It's been over a month since I've been on the Joey Harris Show, so I'm just going to call that out there. Um, but I'm excited to be making a movie with my brother Joey here. So art crawl's coming, man. That's all I can say. It's going to be really exciting, and I'm super dope to be able to direct my friend here. Like I don't even think I'm going to be in it. Like I'm just getting the opportunity to direct my guy. I'm really excited for that one. So I'm gonna check my IMDb page, man. That's all I can say, bro. Just check me out. We running.
You're on my list. It's just that you're at the end of the list. If I did like you and then like all these other people, I got to go when see because this is what you told me last week. I'm my brother. I will always make it work for you. Not
Yeah.
everybody does that. They're like, I can do it from this time to this time. I'm like, okay.
Hey, and then lastly, I guess I got the last thing. Summer Camp premieres May 31st in theaters nationwide. So if you're watching the trailer at 23 seconds, you get to see me for point 0.1 of a second. So I say if I made the trailer, even if I don't make the film, fuck it, I may get a trailer. But I figure, they got to put me my beautiful brown face in that purple shirt. They got to put me on there, baby.
They've got to. That's what I say. Hey, everybody starts somewhere. I tell people I'm like, look, uh, Michael B. Jordan is on an episode of The Sopranos.
He
Yes,
was little Tony,
yes.
and then he was on the wire.
And Matthew McConaughey was on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, playing a guy who was mowing his grass, and a pedophile is coming down the street showing himself to these little kids, and then shoots Matthew McConaughey's character and then disappears on there. Yes. I'll send it to you. It's the craziest thing.
And I was just gonna, I mean, just because you said everybody starts somewhere. Terry Crews in the background of Training Day. Now, mind you, it just happens to be the scene that everybody remembers from Training Day, where King Kong ain't got shit on me, but Terry Crews is there in that scene, and like he's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
getting paid. What
No.
people don't understand is like there are unpaid roles. You know, you go out there and you do your thing, you get the opportunity to shine, and you know, again, big shouts also to Cadell Stallings for making Daddy's Little Girl. It's a web series. It's going to be coming out in the fall. And all I can tell y'all to do is keep an eye out for Howard, man. Keep an eye out for Howard, man. We got some great things coming.
Big things coming. But like TJ said, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. You'll get notified every time we drop a new episode. Every single time. So
Pop. Ah!
that's it. That's where we're gonna leave it. TJ, love you, brother. Thank you so much. We will see you all next time.